Well, let me go ahead and share my screen. That way I can just put up the title of our work together. And it's such a pleasure. And thank you all for joining us. We're so excited to be part of this. We've been working on this project for quite a while, and we're so excited to finally share it with you. And so we thank you for making that time to join us today. My name is Jim, and I am you can tell by my accent that I'm an American, but I live here in Australia, and I am a former television and film teacher, and also a television producer way back in the day. So it's such a pleasure to be here, and it's also wonderful to have a good friend and longtime colleague, Mr. Ken Shelton, is here as well. Hi, Ken.
Hello, and it's a pleasure to be here, and look forward to our work together. For a little background on me, I also taught. I was a classroom teacher for 18 years in the Los Angeles Unified School District, and believe it or not, a lot of what we will cover today and in overall workshop series are things that I used to teach students as far back as really about 2003.
Yeah, that's what's been great about this, right, Ken, is that we've been able to draw on our teaching experience and what we shared with our students to be able to bring to you so you can share that with your students and hopefully learn along the way. I also want to begin by acknowledging that I am on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people here in Melbourne. That's actually a view of right around my house. You see the river, the Birrung, known as the Yarra River, winds its way through a little place called Warrandyte, where I live, that is rich in history for the Wurundjeri people. And it's great to acknowledge that I live, work, and play on the lands that they have nurtured for so long. And we just want to begin with that. We want to allow you to take a moment to just acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that you are on and where you are from. So with that, we'll also keep moving through. We have a really fun project ahead of us with this. We are calling it Becoming Media Savvy. And really, this project is about you and the media that you look at, with your device. Maybe you're, on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, or just generally the news, if you're just getting your news off of the internet. Also, we'll cover the things that we see on television, and we'll cover some of the things that we read in print. And we really want to become more digitally or media literate, is what we want to say. And so we have a lot of resources available to you. You'll find that probably the most important document that you'll have is the teacher guide. And we know that the folks have, I think we're about to put it into the chat, perhaps a link to it in the chat. The teacher guide will be your resource for all things. We know that you have access, some of you have access to the Google Classroom we've created, and I'll show you that in a moment. But it may also just be easier for you to download this teacher guide and be able to use that on your own. If you needed to, you could even print it so that way you have access to it and make copies of it if you feel like you'd like to. The teacher guide will walk you through it. I think I have it here on my screen. The teacher guide will look like this, and you'll see we just added a little bit of contents here, a brief explanation of what I'm basically going over right now, and Ken and I will go over the program resources. We've also made connections to the Australian curriculum for those of you who are joining us from Australia, either live or on the recording. And then we've also made the connection here to Papua New Guinea syllabus links. So you'll find lots of information in there to connect this to what you're already teaching. I will say that there's a lot more. We just had to stop. There's so many ways to connect what we see and do with media to the traditional core teaching that we have in our classrooms. And then there's lots of other material here. There's a glossary of terms that we'll cover, and all the things that we have available in the Google Classroom will be available to you here. Okay. The other thing I'll mention that I've already mentioned really is the Google Classroom. So we have used Google Classroom with this program before. I was so lucky enough to last year to be able to help create a Google, Google Tools Google Classroom for those of you who have used that. And so making a Google Classroom is a great way for us to connect with our students and make all of these resources available to you online. I will put the link here into the chat to join that Google Classroom. So if you are able to join into a Google Classroom, you'll need your Gmail account. Go ahead and click on the link. Oops, thank you. There you go. Thanks, Ken. You'll go ahead and click on one of those two links to join the classroom as a student. And here inside of Google Classroom is the classwork with all the resources that are available to you in print on the teacher guide. In addition, you'll see the recordings from this session and the recordings that we will make based on this session, session agendas, projects that we'll talk about today, and more. So we hope that you're able to join along on this with using Google Classroom. But we recognize that some of you may not be able to join the Google Classroom, so that teacher guide is available to you. All right. So maybe I'll kick it over to Ken. Ken, do you want to talk about some of these, the objectives that we have for this course?
Yes, and I apologize. For some reason, my signal, it fades out and comes back, and I don't know why. I've done a speed test, and the speed should be totally fine. So if I freeze, I'll pause, and then you all will come back. So first of all, welcome to all of you to be a part of this course and our time today. And I want to emphasize several things, and I will share with you all in the chat what our foundational points that this entire project will include. But the main thing for me to share with you as we start is the importance around media literacy. If you think about how much content we consume, we interact with, and then we create and share, how much of that is through all of the different mechanisms that exist today around media. Jim and I are the same age, and we both taught for a long time. We did not have access to the same degree of media representations and media. What I would say is that media now has democratized the opportunity for voice, but it has also increased the necessary development of media literacy skills. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean that it's true, among many other things. So what we want to do is we want to be able to empower ourselves and our students to be able to effectively navigate, if you will, the media landscape, whether it be traditional media, which is usually television and radio, and then also newer medias, which are all of our social media feeds and anything that involves a digital space. So in their chat, hopefully it will do, yeah, perfect. Those are all of the key points for us to cover with this project are, being able to discern facts and determine the necessary skills to develop them. Not everything that is put out in media and not everything that we consume is fact. In fact, more often than not, it's opinion masquerading as a fact. Also, not all from information that's created and distributed on the internet is innocent. We'll take you all through an activity later where you can look at things that have shown up on the internet and ask yourself, is it fact or is it opinion? And then I always ask the follow-up question is, do you think that that was created by accident? And we'll go through a little bit, which it's in the glossary, are the different types of information, which is mis, dis, and malinformation. And then you hear a lot, no matter what. I'm sure you all, or not sure, but maybe you all have heard a whole lot of what's going on in the US, but this is not just limited to the US, it's the whole idea around different perspectives on things. Just because perspectives exist doesn't mean that those perspectives are done in what I describe as by good faith actors, which means that they're not interested in having dialogue around understanding different viewpoints, understanding different perspectives. It's more a function of, I need to get you to think and believe what I believe in. And if you don't, then you are now my enemy or you aren't smart like me. And that leads to the next point, which is that not every viewpoint needs or deserves to be debated. What commonly comes up in media is that, well, there are two sides to every debate. not every side deserves any degree of time, energy, or cognitive approach to being debated. And then lastly, it's the responsibility that we carry as individuals, as consumers, as creators, and then also as educators around the type of content that we push out, the type of content that we interact with, and then the type of content that we, in many cases, share. So we're going to take you all through a little bit of all of the above in the time that we have. And again, with the goal being to expose you to all of these core components, but also what Jim and I have in mind is that most of what, while it may look like a long list, it actually really isn't. It's being able to develop a cognitive process around how you interact with, how you consume, how you share, and then how you create different types of information and what that information is representational of.
Yeah, that's a lot. Ken, we have a lot to look forward to with this project. I'm just going to put this this screen back up and just to look at these points that Ken just shared with us. These there's a lot that we can look at right now, and I think maybe you're already doing that with some of the things that you're doing. I know when we have events going on like elections, there's a lot of information that is being shared with us on the news and in newsprint, and then also online. And I think what's interesting, Ken, is what you said about not every viewpoint needs to be or deserves to be debated. A lot of the times that when we get into situations, especially our students, they think that they have to fight for this these opinions. And hopefully throughout this process, we'll show you how a lot of that is really just meant to capture your attention and get you to reshare that stuff. So we have hopefully it'll be fun for you to be able to look at this. You may never look at media the same, which is which is good, which is a good thing. And a lot of times we'll find that the good stuff is better, and then the bad stuff becomes worse. And we think it's very important for students to learn these things now before they get started. This project is this digital clubs that we have going on that we're sharing with you is really centered around this question. How can our students create a campaign to help their peers or our peers properly evaluate media that we see, read, and share for truth? And we want our students at the end of this project, and we want you to be able to understand what is worth reading and sharing to other folks. You've probably done that. If you're in a Facebook group or you're on Twitter, you have probably seen something. You may not have even read it and said, "Oh, I should send this to all my friends." And we want to help you understand what's going on with that. We're not trying to stop you from sharing, that's for sure. Some things are really worth sharing, and some things we just want us to properly evaluate that. And the end of this really does revolve around two projects. There are two projects, and I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll pull up the digital. Well, yeah, I'll pull up the teacher guide, and I'll just sort of scroll down. Forgive me for scrolling on the screen like this. There'll be two projects that we're going to ask our students to take a look at. One is after the first time we meet, we're going to ask our students to create a resource of social media accounts, or channels, or links that show an accurate view of you and your community. Often we see people sharing things about us or our community of people, whatever that might be. For example, I'm an American who lives in Australia, so I belong to communities of Americans in Australia. And what we want to do is share accounts, or get our students to share accounts that accurately represent them. And that could be Australian. That could just be something about that the characteristic or a group that the kids like to be part of. Maybe that's sports or art or whatever it might be. So that's our very first project, and we're going to encourage our students to do that with I don't know, pen and paper, or maybe something online with a Google Doc, or even maybe create a poster in Canva, whatever you have access to. And so we encourage you as teachers to help support your students with that, and we'll be giving more information about what that might look like down the road. Then the last project, the final project, is the Truth in Media campaign, to answer the question that I just had up on the screen. And that is, how do we help our peers become more media literate? And we're going to create a campaign for discovering truth in media. We want our students to take an idea that they learn in this course and develop some sort of video or graphic or poster or website, whatever they would like. And we have so many resources available to you. So we want our students to be able to create something that teaches something from this course to their friends that didn't take the course. And that, of course, as you know, as a teacher, is the best way to learn, right? That's the best way for us to really remember something, is to teach it to someone else. So we're really excited about that, what that is going to look like. We obviously, our students have lots of options on how to on what to do. And we encourage you to help support them. As part of that, we have given you some resources, and we have plenty of opportunity for more, like Book Creator. Anybody ever use Book Creator? If you've used Book Creator, add that to the chat. Just mention that you've used the website Book Creator. It's bookcreator.com. I tell you what I'll do is, can I just grab this link? Yeah, I'll grab this link and I'll stick this in the chat. Book Creator is a really great website for collecting media onto what would be like a printable book, but it's really an online book. We also have resources here to learn how to use something like Adobe Express or WeVideo, depending on where you are and your access to the internet, and a machine that can handle video. We can talk to you or help you work out how to edit a video of a student talking about this, maybe making a 1-minute commercial or a 30-second commercial about this. And then finally, one of the other resources we share here in the teacher guide is Google Sites. So we're making a website that has links and text to help other students access that. So good. No Book Creator folks out there. Look at that. Hopefully you'll learn something new. That'll be great. We encourage you to try it anything, and as we move forward with that project, feel free to just reach out to one of us and we can give you more resources on that. But we want you to try something new for sure, because there's so many great services out there to help amplify this message that our students will be using. All right. So that's hopefully something to look forward to. In this teacher guide, while I'm here, I just want to share with you, we have lots of resources for you to learn more on your own speed, so you don't always need us. Oh, good, I'm glad Junior is just saying how interesting it looks. It's really cool. And so there are resources here for you to learn more about particular topics. And then there's a couple books that I love from friends of ours there in the US. Librarians wrote 2 books really on the same topic that we're covering. One of them is just called Fact versus Fiction, and the other one is this one about developing digital detectives. So depending on the age level of the student that you're teaching, these books can be really appropriate. And so there's lots there for you to take a look at. So between now and the time we meet with our students for the first time, hopefully it's not too much, but if you're interested already, you have opportunities to do more. All right. Any questions for us before we move on into some of this great content that we have to share with you? Feel free to drop questions into the chat as we move along, and we'll be happy to answer them. There's lots of folks here helping us out. Nicole and Sophie are there, and Ken and I can help each other out by looking at it. Let's move on to a project that we want you to take a look at. So the first thing we want to share with you today is the ability to jump into a Jamboard. Now, some of you, I know you're on your mobile devices, and you may not be able to share it with the Jamboard, so feel free to use the comments in this Google Meet for any responses that we ask. But I wanted to introduce you to Jamboard as a thinking canvas. So an opportunity for you, I'm just going to stick the link to the chat in here in the chat, to use the service called Jamboard. Do you know this? It's a Google product that it's like a whiteboard, and it's great because we can share it with you, and then you can put your responses in here. And so what does that look like? It looks like this. So here on the screen is our Jamboard. And let me see if I must have put that. I'm going to delete that. Oh, did somebody just put that in there? There you go. I'll put that back up. Thank you. Maybe it was you, Ken. I'm not sure. And so what we're having here is a Jamboard for you to be able to join. So by just clicking on the link in the chat, hopefully that that works. If it doesn't, let me know. Anybody with a link can access. So Jamboard is just a place for us to drop in our responses. So I want to introduce you to a video. It's one of my favorite videos, and it's about a man who fights off a great white shark in Sydney Harbor. So I'm just going to pop it up on the screen. I'm going to play it. Maybe it might play well for you, but I'm going to put the link to that same video in the chat in case you need to watch it on your own. But I'm just going to take a moment to play a little bit of it right now, and I just want to ask you some questions about it afterwards. So here we go with this video. Hopefully it'll play okay on your side. I'm just thinking about the audio, but shouldn't matter too much. Can you hear it okay, Nicole? Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear it. Okay.
All right. Ready?
Okay, I'm going to stop playing that right now because I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit freaked out about that. I'm curious what you think about that video. Okay, so the very first thing I want you to do is identify elements of that video that you think make you think that this video is true. Right? So do you think what you saw in that video, if you need to watch the link is in the chat. What elements in that video make you think that video is true? What elements make you doubt that that video is true? All right. So what you'll do is you'll go into this Jamboard if you have it, or just drop it into the chat. Yep, yellow should be true elements, and maybe we'll make green a green dot untrue or doubt elements. Right? We'll call it doubt elements. So if you have just pick a yellow card, if it's identify the things that make you think that video is true, and then use green to identify the things that make you doubt that that video is true. Feel free to use the chat if you want, or if you need a minute just to click on that link and watch it without us there. I'm just going to give you a few minutes on that. If you have questions, let us know, or unmute. Feel free to unmute and ask them. Somebody has added, did the man have a camera in his hand? Yeah. They in the title of the video, they say he had a GoPro camera. Are you familiar with GoPro cameras? Yeah, it's a good hint, right? It's a good hint, in my opinion. Good. Love that. That's a good comment. What other comments do you have from that video? Yeah, that's right. I agree. Somebody, I like that. Jumping into the water. That's actually, you can do that. That's a real thing. You think you really did jump in the water. That's right. I agree. Great. Thanks for sharing on there. It's good use of the Jamboard. All right. For those of you who haven't commented yet, feel free to, there you go, put those links into the chat. Or, sorry, put your comments into the chat, or just use the Jamboard if you have access to it. So Ken, what do you think about this? What do you have? Oh, here's some more comments. Maybe we wait for a moment. We give some people some more time. Yeah. I think this is interesting. If you live near the beach, you might feel differently about sharks, right? If you don't live near the beach, you know, in my whole life, I've spent not next to the beach. So this video terrifies me. I'm terrified by it. Like I didn't even want to watch all of it with you. I was like, maybe we're done. There you go. It's really interesting. It's meant to be in Sydney Harbor, right? So has anybody been to Sydney Harbor? They say there are great whites in Sydney Harbor. So that's why that's one of the reasons why I think it's true. They do say there are great white sharks in Sydney Harbor. So maybe I'll put that in here myself. Are great whites in Sydney Harbor. So that could be true. Junior, I think you might be right. Junior's doubting that. Yeah. Go ahead, Junior.
No, I think he just jumps into the water, and then in maybe less than 30 seconds he finds out there is a shark, and he's shouting for help.
Yeah, bad luck.
Anyway,
Bad luck.
bad luck.
Good, that's good. Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, I think we want to doubt it, right? I think we want to doubt it. I mean, I don't know. I've never really jumped off of a cliff into an ocean before, but I imagine that if a shark is in the ocean and you jump off a cliff into the ocean, there's a chance that you could hit it. I think it's really interesting, right? Especially if you're filming it. Kids these days, they all do that. They all have their own cameras and they're filming all their sort of risky actions. I think there's some interesting stuff in there. If I just put that video back up on the screen, did you see the part where he's sort of goes around a fence that tells people not to go in that fence, right? Like that's what kids do. Kids do that. There's lots of kids who do that. And then I love I don't know what that is. Like spiky bits, like these spiky bits to stop silly people from jumping. And then, of course, they get around the corner and then he jumps. And then did you see the part where his friend, like he's in the water, right? And his friend is screaming. Here, I think it's here. Yeah. That's the last thing you want to have happen to you when you're in, right? Yes, Ken, good point. Ken is saying that doesn't splashing attract sharks? Yeah, all those things. It can be very interesting. We have a document in your teacher resources about this video, and it's very interesting for you to be able to take a look at that with your students. Let me see if I can pull it up and grab the link to it for you, and it's here. Give me just one moment. I think I had it. Yeah, it's a link about what makes a video go viral. And let me see if I can just grab that link with you and put that in. I'm just going to make this viewable. One second. And so this link here, I'm going to put it in the chat, is introducing you to a document that we created called Think About It. And so let me pull it up on the screen for us. I tell you what, I'll get it from the Google Classroom. here in the Google Classroom, we have a document here called Think About It. And what's really interesting about this video, and thank you for all of you who have shared your thoughts about this, is this is a viral video created by a company called the Woodshed Company. And they're based here in Australia, and they made a series of videos like this. One of them is about a crazy guy that runs into a tornado. And then you may have seen this one about a girl being chased by a bear in a snow while snowboarding. So let me show you this one really quickly here. Have you seen this video before where the girl is just snowboarding, and then as she's snowboarding, there a bear appears behind her? Hold on, let me see if I can pause it at the right spot. It's pretty scary. Here it comes. 1 second. There it is. Hold on. There. Have you seen this before? This is a video that caused all sorts of sensation on the internet. It's about 14 million people who saw this on this particular video on YouTube, and it was really it went really viral. And the idea behind this is that this whole project here was all made up in the heads of the folks at the Woolshed Company. And we have here a document that talks about all the things that they did to make people share that video. It wasn't true, right? So that jumping in the water and then finding a shark wasn't true. And it's it's very true. Sorry, what somebody just put in the chat was the idea that it's too dangerous to go outside anymore. But what happened was this Woolshed folks decided that they would create videos and see discover what makes a video go viral. And really interesting. So we created this document we call Think About It, right? We call them Think About It, right? Think about what makes a video go viral. And down here, we have some questions in here. Like, why do you think people shared that video? And then what made you believe it's true? What made you doubt it? Just like what we did it here. We think that these Think About It documents will be great for you to work with your students. So, and get them thinking about the media that they are, what we call consuming, what they're watching on the internet. And we really want everyone looking at videos on the internet and wondering, is this true? Did this happen? Is this something that I should share responsibly with my friends? Because while being chased by a bear on a snowboard seems dangerous, it really doesn't impact us too much, right? We don't. But what about the things on the internet that our students share that actually could hurt us or hurt the reputation of someone? Or we have to look at these videos and question some things and wonder about that. And that's what we're going to be working with you and your students around. And take a look at that. We encourage you to take a look at these other videos. This one I think maybe it's pretty scary. He may say a bad word in there, so we encourage you to watch these videos before sharing them with your students, and then make sure that it's okay. That you feel okay with sharing those in front of your students. The snowboard one was fascinating. It's really fascinating. Did I put this link in the chat? I think I did. So you should be able to access these. I think you should be able to get access to them. All right. Yeah, I can see some folks in there already. All right. Anybody have any questions about that? Anything that stands out to you about that shark video, or even that short clip of the girl being chased by a bear while snowboarding? The whole time in this video, she simply just sings her little song, and then is it a Rihanna song? She sings a Rihanna song while a bear is hunting her. Just really good stuff. Really interesting, because a lot of our students, I know students I work with here in Melbourne, there's not really any place to go snowboarding very close by. You know, there's a couple of spots, but, you know, I don't know, maybe your students would be fascinated around the idea that somebody's, you know, what is, you know, this idea of snowboarding with bears chasing them. It depends on where you are, I suppose. All right. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good question. Somebody's put in the chat here about if we could talk more about what it means to go viral. That's really what we're going to talk about with your students in this particular piece. When we say something goes viral, it means that not just a few people watched it, but a lot of people watched it. And there's an equation, I guess, that exists, a maths equation that exists out there about if one person, if everybody you shared this video with watches it or shares it one more time, then a video goes viral, right? So it's essentially it just means that it's somebody shares it, more people and all those folks that they shared it with share it with another person, and then all those people share it with another person. So exponentially it grows more and more until millions of people are watching it. And this company has said that things go viral when people debate it, right? Which I think is interesting. These videos all feature some things that make you believe it's true and some things that make you believe it's fake. They have put those things in there for you. They did purposely put things in there to make you say this video is fake. And they just like they made, they have things in there to make you think it's real. And it's, and because of that, people debate it. Do you remember what Ken said earlier about not all things are worth debating, right? Not every viewpoint needs or deserves to be debated. Well, when people don't listen to that, they get this and it becomes viral. So I want to prove to everybody that this is real. Yeah, good. Jody, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, just that concept of exponential math equations is our way of connecting this project into a lesson in maths, which is, you know, I don't know anything about maths, so you'll have to do that for us, Jody. But it's great. Yeah, feel free to share those in. Yeah, Mary is suggesting that about Gangnam Style. That is exactly right. I'm just remembering that video. It was great. Like Gangnam Style is just so good, right? What made Gangnam Style go viral? You know, think about those things. Like, what are those videos that you shared with your friends that maybe they were funny, or maybe they were controversial, or maybe they just they were just something to just share out with more people. Yeah, yeah. It's Jody, Gangnam Style was the first video on YouTube to hit 1 billion views. 1 billion views, right? It's something like so many people like there were so many hours of it being watched that it was like 400 years or some number like that. I can't remember. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, think about videos. What videos have you loved that have gone viral, and what videos have you shared, and why did you share them? Just try to be thinking about those things. Why did you share those videos with people in your life, right? So good. One of our favorite topics to talk about is viral videos because there's just so many great things. The flip side of this is, while it's fun to share videos about a girl being chased by a bear or Gangnam Style dancing, we also tend to see fake videos being shared, things that aren't real. And we want our students learning with this kind of video at the very start because it's easy and it's fun. But then we want them to start investigating the videos that talk about politics and religion and all the things that cause people to truly debate, you know, maybe not in a fun way, right? Which is what Ken shared with us earlier. You know, what we want our students to be thinking before they share, you know, let's think about those things. And so that's really where we're at with that. Yeah, humor is very relatable. Yes, thanks, Jody, for sharing that. Let's jump over to just around media literacy. Ken, do you want to take a moment to just talk to us about, what is this process of media literacy, and what is it these experiences that we can look for? I'm hoping you're there, Ken.
Yes, I am. I wanted to add something. Before we shift over to that, I want to share with everybody something that the Woodshed Company said. This is a quote. It's on the document. I'd like for you all to just take a look at that quote. Because what they did was they created videos with the intent of seeing what makes a video go viral. But I'm asking you all to take a look at this, because for me, I consider myself to be the equivalent of a word nerd. I look at language and I look at how specific words are used. Is there anything that stands out to any of you in what they've put as far as their intent behind making those videos to see what makes a video go viral?
I feel like there's a few things in that statement.
There are. And you all don't need to use the Jamboard. You can just use the chat here. Anything that stands out to you in their statement around why they did what they did.
Oh, I could spend days talking about this. I love this stuff. Yeah,
both of us.
It is interesting, right, Ken? That the idea of, like, and for me, like, it's the concept of, like, shock, laugh, and cringe, right? Like, these are all the things that we love to look at right there, folks.
Yeah. So those are, think about how much stronger of a word, especially an English descriptor, shock is versus surprise. Like, if you think about it, I'd ask all of you to ask yourself, what situation have you been in your life of where you were surprised versus when you were shocked? Which one is much more to an extreme? And that's why those words, pulling those words out, is perfect. We want to shock you, we want to make you cringe. And no matter how brief and no matter how questionable, which leads to this statement that they did as well, which is this here. And I share that because it's a way of forging a deeper emotional connection with the viewer. I said, if you'll notice what their words that company used, it has nothing to do with validation of information, importance of information, credibility of information, and reliability of that information. It's strictly to get a deeper emotional connection. And that emotional connection is the response that you have to those things, which was to shock and cringe, even if it is questionable. So all of those things, surprises are more happily displayed than shocks are. Yeah, usually we associate shock with a negative rather than a positive. And it's a much stronger emotional reaction we have to things that shock us versus things that surprise us. So all of that kind of ties in with what I want us to kind of examine a little bit, and that is the following. The process that you all just went through, a shortened version of it, is what I would identify as developing degrees of media literacy. So what I want us to do for a few minutes is to come up with somehow, some way, your own working definition of media literacy. So let's break that up into two different parts. So please share in the chat the following. How do you define literacy?
And just a reminder, we're going to use the chat for this instead of that Jamboard.
Yeah, we'll use the chat for this. We'll go over to the Jamboard for another thing, but for now, because I know some of you are having some connectivity challenges, just like me, let's just use the chat. So when you think in terms of literacy, how do you all define it? So one of my favorite websites to use when it comes to a starting point for definitions is collinsdictionary.com. It tends to be less biased than Webster's, among other things. And I'm going to share with you all what they define literacy as on the website. And you all see where it ties in with this. That's how they define literacy, the ability to read and write. And the whole reason why we're here together, and the reason why this topic is so critical and vital, is that as you all just did yourselves, you didn't read and you didn't write really anything. You interpreted videos that Jim just showed. And when you think in terms of media, which Mary put, media is like means of mass communication, literacy, ability to read and write. So if we put them together, it's how we interpret any form of media that is accessible globally. So Mary, thank you. I love that. The whole idea is that media, to me, is any mechanism that is used to disseminate information, period. Now, that information could be for entertainment value, it could be for informative value, it could be for a variety of things. But the whole idea is that media that's what media is for. So I'm going to share with you all how I define literacy. So I'll put it in the chat. This is simply how I define it. That's how I define literacy: effective communication, period. The end. So if you think about media, the means in which we distribute information, consume information, distribute stories, consume and interact with stories. And if you take my definition, which is effective communication, would you all say that the videos that Jim just showed represented effective media literate communication? Did they get you, were they shocking? Were they cringing? And clearly they don't care whether it's questionable or not. So was that content questionable? And Jody says, yes, totally agree.
I have to agree with you, Ken. Like, I had emotional reactions to that shark video. Like, I emotionally reacted to that, right? Cringe.
Well, yeah, I'm curious to know from those of you on here, what was your initial emotional response to either the shark video or the snowboarder?
Yeah, right. It could be like what, right? You want to believe it's not true. You want to believe it's not true. Really interesting.
So the whole idea around the reason why I'm bringing this up is that if you all notice that the way literacy tends to be defined is too narrow of a scope. It must be broader. And when you attach media to it, it is literally along the lines of, as what several of you have shared here, it's how do I effectively discern the messages that I'm receiving, the messages that I'm communicating, and even the messages that I'm creating, and do it in a way that is literate. But when it comes to the consuming, is we also want to be able to identify what is the message that I'm consuming, because that will help me determine whether or not it is of any value for me from an informational standpoint or from an entertainment standpoint. And that's how you start to get into the nuance between fact versus fiction, real versus fake, and all those sorts of things. So technically, according to that way of looking at it, the videos that Jim just showed were media literate effective, because they effectively communicated the purpose behind what Woodshed wanted to do, which was videos to, we're afraid for the two that encountered the shark and bear. Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing, you're afraid even if you have no interaction with either one of those animals. I would love to see the reaction of adults or students for the snowboarding video, even if they've never been snowboarding before. And that goes to Mary, to the point you put in the chat, that goes to the whole idea around it is effectively communicating something. What that is questionable, but it is effectively communicating something. I will share with you all, when I first saw that video, I just started laughing, because I was like, okay, first of all, a bear is not going to expend that much kind of energy chasing down a snowboarder down a mountain. I just froze, didn't I?
No, we heard that. But if you if you haven't snowboarded, you're like, I knew I shouldn't snowboard. Bears chase you down the mountain, right?
See, and I have. So
Right.
that's the the privilege for me is that I know, okay, no way, because I have done it. But if you start to ask yourself the questions like, well, one, why, first of all, why is she the only one on the mountain? And second of all, would a bear really go through that much energy to try to catch a snowboarder? No. And even continuing on, if you were to do a simple Google search and look at how fast a bear can run, yeah, she would have been caught for sure.
So Ken, is that sort of makes it come across as this? If I was watching this video on my own, I would have these thoughts that maybe aren't true. But when I start having conversations with others around this, that becomes this community reading experience, right? This community experience of when we look at media. So when I see this, I want to share it with you to get your opinion about it, right? Which makes it go viral. But that is what we call the community reading experience. That is an actual phrase that we'll use throughout this process. And we even have a think about it around the community reading experience. This is that concept of like consuming media online and then liking it, sharing it, and adding comments. Because when my friends see a video, when my friends share a video with me, I believe it because they shared it with me. My friends shared it with me, right? Or somebody I respect in politics or I respect in the world shares something, I might believe it because they shared it. And I respect them, so I might believe it. And the opposite is true when somebody I don't respect shares something. I'm like, that's probably not true, right? That's probably not true, or I don't know that person well enough to believe it, right?
Well, Jim, before we continue on with the community reading experience, and I put that in there. So I put a couple of things. And one, Mary's already on it. Shouldn't bears be hibernating during the winter?
That's probably why they put the bear in there. Well, that's why it wasn't like a polar bear or something, right? It was just right.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, it's first of all, it's got brown hair, so it's not a polar bear. And second of all, like Mary just said, well, the whole idea is you start to ask yourself those questions, and the more you do it, the more you ask yourself those questions much quicker. It's like, okay, snowboard is being chased. First of all, as you all see, I put in the chat, as massive as a polar bear can be, they still can run 40 kilometers per hour.
Yeah,
she's not going that fast down that hill. And that's and by the way, that's a polar bear. A grizzly bear, they can run over 60 kilometers per hour.
So Ken, I have to ask you, did you just look that up?
I did. I looked up those speeds, but to convert them to kilometers per hour.
Well, what's interesting is
go ahead.
We're calling that the lateral reading experience, like lateral reading. When you're looking up things about a video online, that's lateral reading, right? It was another phrase that you'll find in your glossary of terms around this project. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, okay, I just got to share this. If you all watch the Olympics in track and field, Usain Bolt, the world record holder in the 100 meters and the 200 meters, his maximum speed of running was 27 miles per hour. A polar bear can run 25 miles per hour. A black bear can run 35 miles per hour.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, the snowboarder is going to be able to outrun him.
Yeah.
And but even besides that, to Mary's point, exactly. Wait a minute, aren't bears supposed to be hibernating in the winter? Yeah.
That's right.
So there you go. So the whole idea, like Jim just shared, is when one of the mechanisms for videos to go viral is aligned with, and I'll drop it in the chat too, even though it's on the document, is the community reading experience. And so think about it from the standpoint of what the Woodshed Company did, what we've identified as media and literacy, and the things that you all have done to say, well, wait a minute, something doesn't seem right with the shark video, something doesn't seem right with the snowboarder video. However, the purpose of us being together and what we're going to work on with students is most people will have an emotional response to those things and say, oh my God, I can't believe this, the shock, even the cringe. And then what do? Community reading. They'll immediately share it.
That's right.
You know, I mean, think about it. All of us have probably done that, where you'll see something and you'll literally say, "Oh, I got to show my friend right now," and you don't bother to say, "Well, wait a minute. Before I share this, let me ask some questions of myself around like what we just did. Um, what's a bear doing chasing a snowboarder in the winter? Aren't you supposed to be asleep right now?" Two, that snowboarder is not going over 35 miles per hour down that mountain, which means that snowboarder is going to get caught. Number three, okay, he jumped into a harbor with a shark and he held on to his camera. Why would you hold on to your camera if you really are worried about a shark coming after you? You see, the whole idea is to develop a mechanism, if you will, around how do we consume the media and ask ourselves those questions very, very quickly before we end up sharing it. It doesn't mean you can't share it, but like, for example, if I consume one of those videos and let's say I sent it to Jim, I would say, I know this is fake, but check this out.
That's so interesting. Hey, Ken, I'm curious. So I'm just going to drop this question in, and just before because we're starting to wrap up right now. I'm just curious, what are you already doing what are some techniques that you use already when you're evaluating media? You know, feel free to take a minute to drop that into the chat. What are you already doing when you're evaluating, you know, maybe something you watch on television or something that you see online? What is it that that you're already doing? What techniques can you share with us already? Because these techniques are what we're sharing with your students as well. So as you work on this, what other things, what are you already doing to look at media like this, or to evaluate? I should use that word, evaluate media. We'll give you a moment to just add that into the chat. What are you already doing? Maybe they're having a discussion in your room about it, feel free to drop that into the chat. While you're doing that, I just want to help you to be prepared for this conversations with your students. You know, what we want to make sure that that you know is that we want you to take a look at the glossary of terms we've shared in the chat here a moment ago. Just become familiar with some of these words, because as we start to investigate or talk about this with your students, it may be good for you to be able to help reinforce that on your end, right? And it'll be really good for you to have that experience. So we ask you to maybe just take a look at some of the material before we meet with your students next week. And then another thing I would say to you is just be prepared, or just, you know, learn how to avoid the tough conversations that might come up. You know, these, as we explore media, there are tough topics that come up with media, like religion and race and gender and politics. We would encourage you to have those conversations with your students, because those are the things that seem to be online that cause the most issues. But we want to just be prepared that some of this might actually cause kids to have those conversations, which we encourage, but you just want to be prepared for that. All right. Yeah, really good. Any other thoughts on what some techniques are that you're using to evaluate media? You know, the idea of reading and maybe checking the sources, right? Oh, that's weird. Magical. Jinx. Yeah, it is really, like, I always look for, where did it come from? Who shared it? I follow Ken on Twitter, and I often, anytime Ken posts something, I'm automatically like, yes, okay, I'm going to share that. And it's because I value Ken's, you know, I value Ken's opinion, and I know what he shares, and I know a lot of that stuff is good for the people that follow me. Yeah. Yeah, reliable, right? That's a good word, right? How do we decide? Yeah, looking at the source. How do we define what's reliable? Good. Just be thinking about these things as we move forward into this project. The idea here is for our students to showcase what they've learned and then be able to teach and share that with others, creating things that you could use in your classroom, or that you can use the next time something you know, provocative comes up online or on the television, or you know, around, you know, elections or whatever it could be. We want to be, you know, we want to be able to go, oh, this is a great example. We know that this student made that already. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, good. These are great comments in here. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. One thing Jody's is saying, is it coming from a reputable company? I want to show something to you on this snowboarding video. This person, Kelly Murphy, is fake. It's fake. They created a fake account, and they created a fake statement by a fake person, presumably meant to be this person. You know, so sometimes when we look at the source, we're like, oh, Kelly Murphy. I know a Kelly. This has got to be true. Right. Yeah, it's good. Jody, about bias, such an important topic, right? Where does bias play into this? Such an important thing. All right. As we start to wind down, we just want to share a couple more things with you, and then just help you get on your way, and then help you get ready. But in the meantime, feel free to ask any questions of us before we leave today. So if you have questions that we haven't addressed, or that are sort of popping up into your head, feel free to ask them. I'm just looking at the time. We have about 5 minutes, don't we? Yeah. We have there's lots of activities for us to use. We'll be posting the activities into the Google Classroom, and then also sharing those with in other ways. So that way, those of you who are only watching this video and you're not able to get into Google Classroom, we want to still be able to get you some of these materials that we're sharing here. I'm going to ask one little final thing for you to contribute as we move forward, and hopefully you're getting excited about this. Maybe Ken, do you want to share what this final activity is? Maybe I should pass it off to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 quick comments. Like Mary said, the woodshed company is so convincing. Correct. That's why I love the fact that the word reliable was used. Remember, I shared with you all me and my focus on the nuance of word. You can even have questionable content created and distributed by a reliable source. And that's all the more reason why it's important to develop the media literacy skill sets that we have kind of touched on now. And keep in mind, we've only done this for just over an hour. It requires a lot more than that. But what I wanted to do also, to Jim's point, is the following. So as you look at things more and more and more, you want to be able to identify, okay, oh, it's from a reliable source. I've seen it elsewhere. Okay, I can share it. Versus, you know what? I need to pause and ask myself a few questions. And there's a game online that you can play called Speed or Break. And that's the link that we just put in the chat, and you all will have access to that resource. And the whole idea around that website and that activity is things will pop up. And if it looks like it's a reliable source, it looks credible, it looks relatable, and it looks confirmable, then you speed on. If something like the videos you just watched, if something's like, something just isn't right about this, it's not sitting well with me, or as a common phrase that you hear a lot in the United States is, it doesn't pass the smell test, then you break, because then that means, okay, I need to ask myself some questions like you did with the video. Well, wait a minute. What's the deal with the sharks? Wait, why is he holding a camera? I can believe he can jump in the wall.
Oh, we lost you, Ken. We lost you. Yeah, this is a good little exercise. If you have a chance, maybe save that link, and we'll post this also into the Google Classroom for you. There you go. Thanks, Ken. You're back, I think.
Yeah, what I was saying when I cut out is just that this is a good activity to go through, just to kind of prime yourself on being able to look at headlines and look at things and ask yourself those types of questions, so that you understand whether or not it requires additional research, or it's, nope, it's a reliable source. I've seen it before. I can go ahead and move on.
It's actually pretty fun. It's noisy too, so be careful. You could turn the audio off on the bottom in the corner if you need to. Oh, good. Well, thanks everyone.
But real quick, I do want to point out. So, Manasseh, am I saying your name correctly? Please, and if I'm not, please correct me.
Mary's giving you the thumbs up.
Okay, perfect. Yay, thank you. So Manasseh put in the chat, mostly we look at the credibility of the sources. That's good, but I would still ask, what are the, if you were to tell, and we don't have to do it now, but something to consider, what would be the top things you would look at that you would identify a source as being credible? And I'll give you all an example real quick, because I know we're right at the end. There are credible sources of news information, and obviously for me, my primary lens is the United States because that's where I live. There are credible sources of news information, but you all will see as you work through this and what we'll do with the students, all they have to do is change one little thing, and now it goes into an intent to be deceptive, even though it's from a credible source. And it's part of it is because it goes in the whole thing around things like clickbait and then making things go viral. It's coming from a credible source, and they're saying something that made me emotionally responsive to it, so therefore I'm going to share it. So I do think it's important to be able to say things like I'll give you all a quick example. For me, when I gauge the credibility of a source, I look at that same information from several other sources. Is it presented in the same way? Are they using the same language? Have they cited somebody that they've spoken to about it? Have they provided pictures? Are there credit? Is there a photographer credit with the picture? Have they talked about this in depth? Is it in depth in other sites? Have they cited some of the same experts or sources? All of those little things are ways to develop a much more reliable, media literate approach to the information that we consume.
It's almost like deep reading of images and video, isn't it? Right? There's this concept of like having all of that process going on while looking at something. It shouldn't be a lot of work. It just becomes habit to look at those things and start making decisions about it. We're not always going to be right, but at least we're making an effort to try to figure it out. It's so good. There's so much more we can't wait to share more with you as we move forward with this. Thank you all for making the time today to join us for the very first part of this project. We hope that you'll have an opportunity to take a look at the resources that we've shared in the Google Classroom, in the teacher guide, and all of that. And yeah, it's so good. If on your way out, if you'd like to share just a simple thinking activity, what did you used to think and what do you think now? And if you feel like you have the moment to share that, before you started, what did you used to think? And now that we're at the end of this hour and 15 minutes, what do you think now? Feel free to drop that into the chat. We're always interested in to see what your takeaways are for this, for our work with you. But for those of you who are time sensitive and you have other things to do and go on to, we thank you very much for your time. We will see you next week, or we'll see you online. Thanks, everybody.